Our next reading is measures of leverage. And these are the specific learning outcome statements. I think total of 7 or 5, maybe yes, 5. Okay, now let us discuss these briefly and then we will go straight to the end of chapter questions from your curriculum. Define and explain leverage, business risk, sales risk, operating risk, and financial risk, together with classification of risk or classifier risk. This is any unforeseen event that might prevent an organization from achieving its objectives. So let us first discuss what is leverage. This is a famous statement given by the famous scientist Archimedes. He said, "Give me a lever long enough and a fulcrum strong enough, and I will move the earth." And he was right. He was absolutely right. This is fulcrum, called pivot in physics. This is the point where you are exerting your torque or force. This force, the rotation effect of this force, will be magnified the longer is the arm. The longer is the moment arm, or this distance between the fulcrum or the pivot to the point of the action of the force. The longer the distance, the more power would be exerted on any object. Now you can try this yourself. Let's say if you have to open a door, I'm giving you the top view of the door. This is the knob. Now this is the pivot around which the door can rotate, right? Now if you want to open or close, try opening and closing from this point. You will have to put a lot of effort to open or close. Try putting your effort here. Less effort is required to open or close. If you try exerting effort here, as you keep on moving away from the pivot, from the fulcrum, you will have to exert less force. Why? Because the moment arm, or the distance from the pivot to the point of action of the force, is increasing. The farther you are from the pivot, a little force would be enough to cause swing, enough to cause a larger torque. This idea is called leverage. So this scientific or a concept studied in physics, it can be applied to the world of business as well, in the corporate world as well. Leverage in businesses means fixed cost. Fixed cost, or probably talking from the financial side, financial leverage, interest cost, fixed interest cost. If you have major proportion of your cost represented by the fixed cost like rent, depreciation, property taxes, senior executive salary, insurance, etc. Such costs gives you a power to generate more revenues than the smaller organization. Smaller organizations will have lower fixed costs. They might have lower interest cost, lower financial charges. So resultantly, they will have less power to generate revenue. But a larger business will employ more extensive physical facility, larger investments in facilities. Resultantly, there will be more fixed cost. This fixed cost and the interest cost represents the power that the larger organizations can use to generate much more revenue, much more profit than the smaller organization. So that's the idea. Leverage involves fixed costs in the form of fixed operating cost or the fixed interest cost. This gives companies the power to generate more revenues, more profits than smaller organizations. So is leverage good? It depends upon the type of market, you're operating in and the growth in the industry in which you're operating. If the things are good, economy is doing well, the sector in which you're operating is doing well, leverage will make you very rich. Leverage will result in very high profitability because you have larger fixed costs, you have used borrowed funds, you can generate more revenue than other businesses with low leverages. But things could be drastically bad for you if the economy is in downturn, there is an economic recession or slump, demand is dwindling. This leverage can kill you. I have seen this myself. I work for a company that was highly leveraged. Its financial leverage as well as operating leverage was very high. It operated many branches across the country. It had large facilities. So it had high operating leverage as well as lot of loan from banks, running into billions. Resultantly, things were good. They were generating quite a substantial amount of earnings every week. But when there was a downturn in 2008 October, things turned so bad that they were unable to pay salaries. They were unable to pay electricity and telephone bills. See, if things are good, leverage can make you very rich. But if there is an economic downturn, leverage can devastate you, can destroy your business. And I saw a business being transformed into a glitzy business, into a dark dungeon. It was terrible when things were wrong. We had to sell our cars to a leasing company and lease it back. There was a large fleet of cars. We had to sell and lease back to get some financing. It was terrible. Banks stopped giving. The banks froze their lines of credit. We were literally run dry of liquidity. It was a terrible time. So leverage can be good if things are good. Leverage can be very bad, can put business in a very serious threat when there is a business downturn. So, got the idea? Leverage refers to the extent to which the fixed costs are incorporated into the business operations and in the form of interest cost. Then what is business risk? Business risk is the risk of earning low profits or losses. Business risk is the risk of earning low profits or incurring losses. Business risk has two components: sales risk and operating risk. Sales risk means whatever you sell, the volatility in the quantity sold, sometimes you sell less, sometimes you sell more. The volatility in the quantity of sales and the selling price, the volatility in quantity and or selling price, or together with volatility in revenue, is called the sales risk. Uncertainty about the sales quantity, uncertainty about the sales price, and collectively uncertainty regarding the revenues. It's called sales risk. Operating risk, as the name suggests, the risk that emanates from your operations. Business cost can be split into two categorizations: the variable cost and the fixed cost. When we say fixed cost, it's fixed manufacturing cost, fixed administration, fixed selling, fixed distribution. When we say variable cost, it's variable manufacturing cost, that's direct material, direct labor, variable overheads, variable selling, variable administration. We are not worried about these because they move in line with the level of sales and production. This is something that can put business in trouble because you have to pay fixed overheads, rent, insurance of factory facilities, fixed administration salaries, fixed selling, fixed distribution. These are the costs which can put you in trouble if there is a business downturn. These are compulsory payments. If there is a downturn, you might not be able to pay these costs, hence the business might start incurring losses. So having a larger proportion of fixed cost in your cost structure means business has high operating risk, high operating leverage. Then the last one is the financial risk. Financial risk emanates from borrowing. We take loans and fundings from the banks, debentures. The interest paid on such borrowings, such financing, is financial risk. And this does not affect your operating profit because operating profit is gross profit minus operating expenses. Financial risk affects your net income. Net income thereby affects your earning per share. Net income affects your return on equity. It affects your return on assets. Right? So financial risk is caused by interest charges, fixed cost financing. Operating risk is because of fixed costs in your cost structure, and total sales risk and operating risk collectively is called the business risk, and leverage has been explained with the help of this example. So moving on to your next LOS, it says calculate and interpret the degree of operating leverage, the degree of financial leverage, and the degree of total leverage. The degree of operating leverage, as we discussed, is defined as the percentage change in operating income that results from a given percentage change in sales. So far good as far as definition is concerned, but what does it actually mean? Let's say your sales quantity changed over the period or over the quarter or year, whatever the period is, by 10%. This 10% change in quantity sold resulted in a change of 50% in your earning before interest and tax. If you simplify, it will be just 5. Interpreted this way, that 1% change in the quantity sold results in increase in your earning before interest and tax by 5%. We thereby can make an estimation that if your quantity sold increases by 20%, that would mean your earning before interest and tax should go up by 100%. Compare it with another business, and for such a business, increase in their 10% quantity sold resulted in increase of earning before interest and tax of 20%. So it means 2 to 1. So 1% increase in the quantity sold by such business will result in 2% increase in the earning before interest and taxes. 1, 2. It means this business has more operating leverage. This business has less operating leverage. This business, slight change in sales revenue could result in quite a significant increase in earning before interest and tax. But for this business, it has less. What would be the reason? The reason would be the fixed cost. This business has larger fixed cost. Hence, it has a larger leverage, larger lever through which it can generate more revenues. Hence, more earning before interest and tax. It's more leveraged. This business has less leverage. So this business has more potential to generate higher returns. This business has less potential to generate higher returns. But if things go bad, which they do, like in COVID-19, big businesses that had higher leverages, they are the one who are in trouble, had been in trouble. So if there is a downturn, the one that is larger with higher operating leverage will be the one that will be hit hard. How come? If the sale falls by 10%, your earning before interest and tax falls by 50%. A massive decrease. But for this business, if the quantity of units sold falls by 10%, earning before interest and tax falls by just by 20%. So this will be hit less harder. But the business with the higher operating leverage, this will be hit hardest. So this is one of the formulas you will use. Next formula, it is basically the prefixed cost income upon post fixed cost income. Prefixed cost income upon post fixed cost income. This is one of the alternative ways to measure leverage. Yes, net income is taken for financial leverage because we want to see the operating leverage, and operating leverage results from your operating profit. Operating profit, right? Net income is taken when we want to calculate the financial leverage. Profit before tax is also the measure of financial leverage. Since we are interested in operating leverage, so EBIT is your operating profit. Prefixed cost income upon post-fixed cost income. Let's say a company had a prefixed cost income of $100,000, but after paying fixed cost, profit fell to just $5,000. What happened? What happened? Where did the profit go? It was utilized to pay the fixed cost. You had prefixed cost $100,000, but after paying the fixed cost, charging fixed cost against income, you have just $5,000 left, which means your leverage is quite significant, 20 times. It's a very high leverage number. So this is called prefixed cost upon post-fixed cost. But how do we do it computationally? Now, as you can see, Q is the quantity sold, P is the selling price, V is the variable cost. So Q into P will basically gives you the sales revenue. Here it is. Q multiplied by P gives you sales revenue. Q multiplied by V, quantity sold multiplied by variable cost per unit, gives you the total variable cost. So sales minus total variable cost. It is also called contribution. Those who have studied accounting, they would know that it is contribution. Sales minus total variable cost is contribution. It is also called the prefixed cost income, right? Then from this contribution, sales minus total variable cost, if you deduct the fixed cost, right? Sales minus total variable cost minus fixed cost, this gives you the post-fixed cost income. So prefixed cost upon post-fixed cost, this is the formula that you can alternatively use to calculate your degree of operating leverage, just like the example I gave you. So higher this number, it means the more leveraged, more operational leverage a business has, right? You can see the difference. Without fixed cost, your profit was $100,000. But when you paid your fixed cost out of your contribution, remember gentlemen, an important arrangement, you might not need it in CFA, but it's a helpful formula. Contribution is equal to sales minus all the variable cost. All, mind the word all the variable cost across the company. When I say all the variable cost, that means direct material, direct labor, variable overheads, variable selling, variable administration, all those variable costs that change with the level of output and sales. So contribution is sales minus all the variable cost. This is in the numerator. It is also called the prefixed cost income. So we have $100,000 contribution, but after paying the fixed cost, see, numerator, denominator is the same except F. So when you deduct fixed cost, the income falls from 100,000 to just 5,000. It has been, all the profit has been taken away by the fixed cost. It means this business has a very high operating leverage, right? So this is the formula. Either you might be using this one or this one, depending upon the information or data given. Next LOS, same LOS, now it relates to degree of financial leverage. Degree of financial leverage is interpreted as the ratio of percentage change to net income after tax income, earning before tax, EBT, someone said EBT, earning before tax, after interest, or net income, to the percentage change in EBIT. This is the formula that you can use. Percentage change in EPS or percentage change in net income, EPS or net income, upon percentage change in EBIT. Your EBIT changed by 10% over the period, and it has resulted in EPS change of 35%. If you simplify, it's 3.5. So which means 1% change in EBIT results in 3.5% change in earning per share or your net income, right? If you increase your EBIT by 10%, your EPS or net income goes up by 35%. So this business has high financial leverage. Why financial? Because the difference between the net income and the earning before interest and tax is the interest. So this is something similar that we have just discussed. Degree of financial leverage is pre-interest income upon post-interest income. Pre-interest to post-interest. Like previously, it was prefixed cost upon post-fixed cost. So EBIT is pre-interest income. Let's say it's $100,000, but after paying interest from your pre-interest income, you ended up with 20,000 only. What happened? Where did 80,000 go? It was paid off as interest charge. So resultantly, your leverage, financial leverage is 5. So remember, the financial leverage is caused by interest, the difference between pre-interest and post-interest. And operating leverage is caused by the fixed cost, prefixed cost upon post-fixed cost, right? Then we have another measure that combines these two together, the degree of total leverage. Total leverage combines the degree of operating leverage and financial leverage. So DTL is basically DOL times DFL, and we have these numbers. Previously we discussed EBIT upon percentage change in sales. You can take sales revenue, like here they have taken quantity, no problem. You can take percentage change in sales dollar, percentage change in sales dollar, and in the numerator percentage change in EBIT. You can take quantity if you wish. You can take the sales dollar change if you wish. So here he has taken EBIT upon percentage change in quantity, but he has used percentage change in sales. And what about DFL? It is the percentage change in net income or percentage change in EBT. Yes, it can be percentage change in net income or percentage change in EBT, earning before tax, upon percentage change in EBIT. Right? If you just simplify these, you will get a final simplified version of degree of total leverage. It's equal to percentage change in net income or percentage change in EBT upon percentage change in sales dollar or percentage change in sales quantity. So you can use any of the derivatives in DTL, DOL, DFL depending upon the data given in the question. Accordingly use the right formula. Degree of total leverage can also be calculated using this formula. QP into QV, basically it is total sales minus total variable cost upon QP minus QV, same factor as in the numerator. It is sales minus total variable cost minus fixed cost minus interest. So this is a single formula which you can calculate. You can use to calculate the total leverage. It has been combined by operating and financial leverage to give you the final result. So which formula you should use where depends upon the information given, and here it is given in the simplified version. Your next LOS says analyze the effect of financial leverage on company's net income and a return on equity. As a general rule, remember gentlemen, when your sales revenue increases, it will cause an increase in your earning before interest and tax. A minor change in sales would result in higher change in EBIT. It means businesses has high operating leverage. A small decrease in sales could result in a larger decrease in EBIT. That means business has high operating leverage. Now the next link between EBT and EBT and EBIT, or you can say net income, a minor change in EBT could result in a major change in earning before interest, earning before tax or net income. It means business has financial leverage is between EBIT and EBT. Operating leverage, sales, EBIT. I'm sure you got the idea. The fixed cost and the financial charges or interest. So our interest is between EBIT and EBT, and fixed cost is between sales and EBIT, right? So this is how they are related. So I've just drawn up a table here. So as a general rule, remember, financial leverage is significantly increases the risk of potential reward to the common shareholders. If financial leverage is high, the business has the potential to generate high earning before tax or net income. Eventually that will feed into the return on equity. So return on equity goes up. But there's risk as well. If there's a business downturn, you might sustain a large losses as well. So let's take the example. This is the standard cost and revenue card. Sales prices, let's say, assume numbers, $15 per unit. Variable cost is $5 per unit. Fixed cost is $40. Interest expense is $25,000. We have calculated EBT, EBIT at different levels of sale and output. We first took $10,000. This is our sales. Variable cost, fixed cost stays the same. Your interest stays the same. So the first column gives you EBIT. After interest, it is EBT, that is earning before tax. Then our sale went up by 2,000 more units. Resultantly, our EBIT went up as well as our EBT. Again, with increase in the quantity sold, more EBIT, more EBT, more EBIT. But then again, when the quantity of sale fell to 8,000 units, our EBIT fell to 40 and EBT fell to 15. What do we want to now interpret? Just try to assess. When our unit quantity sold increased by 20%, our EBIT went up by 33%. Quantity sold increased by 25%, your EBIT went up by 37%. But when the unit sold fell by 47%, your EBIT fell by 63%. Why there is a disproportionately large decrease in EBIT? It's because of the presence of fixed cost. It's because of the presence of fixed cost. Remove this fixed cost completely, and you will see a 20% increase in quantity, 20% increase in EBIT, 25% increase in quantity, 25% increase in EBIT, 47% decrease in quantity sold, 47% decrease in EBIT. Why there is a disproportionate increase or decrease? It's because of the presence of the fixed cost. Try increasing fixed cost to a higher number. Let's say make it 80 or 70. You will see this percentage will flex even higher and even lower. So this fixed cost has caused this volatility in your EBIT, right? So fixed cost is the reason why there is volatility in your EBIT. If a business has lower fixed cost, such a business will have lower volatility with the change in volume and sales, percentage wise. But if it has a higher fixed cost, you will see a significant volatility. Now, since this business has financial leverage as well, there is interest element, and this interest element you can see when the EBIT went up by 33%, because of presence of interest, your EBT went up by 57%. When your EBIT went up by 37.5%, because of the presence of interest, your EBT went up by 54%. See, there is a disproportionate increase and decrease. But when EBIT fell by 63%, your EBT fell by 82%. Remove this interest element and you will have perfectly similar numbers: 80, 80, 110, 110, 40, 40. So it's the introduction of fixed cost that causes volatility in your operating profit, introduction of interest that causes volatility in your EBT, right? Then this is how they affect your return on assets and return on equity. Next, calculate the break-even quantity of sales, and determine the company's net income at various sales levels. We discussed this in the previous slide. Let's take an example. A manufacturer's product has a unit selling price of 0.60, a unit variable cost of 0.20, and a fixed cost of $10,000. As I just told you a little while earlier, contribution is sales minus all the variable cost. This is your unit selling price, 0.60, and this is your unit variable cost, 0.60 less 0.20. This is called the unit contribution margin. This is what you earn by selling one unit. This is the break-even chart. We take units on the x-axis and we take cost and revenues on the y-axis. Now let us try to construct these individual cost and revenue functions. Your fixed cost stays the same no matter whatever the level of output or sales be. Fixed cost is 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, 10 for all the level of output. Okay. Let us plot variable cost. Variable cost per unit is 0.2. So if you produce 10,000 units, 10,000 times 0.2 is going to be 2,000. 10,000, 20,000 times 0.2, 25,000 times 0.2, and 30,000 times 0.2. This is the variable cost function curve. If you add these two, fixed cost plus variable cost, there will be a parallel shift in this variable cost line and it will be redrawn from here. Now this line here, it's the sum of fixed cost and variable cost. Collectively it's called the total cost. Total variable cost plus fixed cost. Still the picture is not clear unless we have the revenue function plotted thereon. Since the revenue is steeper, every unit we produce takes in $0.2, but every unit we sell brings us $0.60. So this line curve would be steeper. This, why? Because it's 0.2 per unit. It's 0.60 per unit, thereby giving you the total revenue. Now can you compare this? Of course, in this region, your total cost is more than total revenue. Resultantly, you incur loss here. This is the region of loss. At this point where the total revenue and total cost are equal, this is called the break-even point. No profit, no loss. But this region here, in this region, your total revenue is greater than total cost. It means this is the region where you earn profit. So it means this is the point where there is no profit, no loss, and this is the point in revenue where there is no profit, no loss. So when you sell 25,000 units, the revenue generated is equal to the cost, total cost, or in other words, when the revenue is $15,000, the profit and loss is, in other words, there is no profit and loss. If you sell 25,000 units, no profit, no loss, or if your revenue is $15,000, there is no profit, no loss. So do we need to draw a graph every time? No. You have a formula, a very straightforward formula. Break even, operating break even, it is equal to fixed cost upon unit contribution margin. What is your fixed cost? $10,000. What is the unit contribution margin? The unit contribution margin is the difference between unit selling price minus all the cost, unit variable cost. Mind the word, I emphasize on the word all, because all means all variable cost across the firm that changes with the level of output and sales. So 0.60 less 0.20, it includes all the variable cost per units. So UCM is in the denominator 10,000 upon 0.40 gives you 25,000 units. So these 25,000 units represent the break-even quantity. If you sell these many units, no profit, no loss. What if I want to calculate the break-even revenue? There's a very simple point you should use. I don't want to go into an extensive detail, which we do in the CMA. You can use this quantity, 25,000 units, and multiply it with the selling price. 25,000 multiplied by 0.60 will give you $15,000. This is the break-even revenue. So break-even revenue is $15,000, at which there is no profit, no loss, and break-even quantity is 25,000. So use just this formula. Otherwise, in CMA we have an alternative formula where we calculate contribution margin ratio. You don't need that. Go as simple as possible what is required in your LOS. So we'll keep it till that point. So operating break-even is fixed cost upon unit contribution margin, and you can directly calculate your break-even quantity and your break-even sales revenue. So this is exactly what we used. We can also calculate operating break-even quantity of sales. This was your fifth LOS. Operating break-even quantity of sales simply equal to fixed cost, that was $10,000, upon price, that was 0.60, minus variable cost, that was 0.20. This is basically called the unit contribution margin. Of course, you will get the exact result. But if you need to calculate, gentlemen, remember this is the operating break-even. If you need to find the word break-even, just the word break-even, please remember, you don't have to just cover your fixed operating cost. You will also have to cover the interest charges upon the same idea, same formula, price. Please write this down. Maybe you won't find this in Kaplan. So price minus variable cost per unit. So if you have to calculate the operating break-even will contain only fixed operating costs upon selling price per unit minus variable cost per unit. But if you have to calculate the break-even quantity, mind the word, OBE is different. Operating break-even. This is just break-even. So in this case, you will have to take this fixed cost in the numerator as well as the financial charges or the interest cost and divide it with the same denominator, price minus variable cost. And that's all.